Wear appropriate clothing. Dress for the task. The wrong clothing or footwear can create hazards. Avoid distractions. Stay focused on your work. Distractions can lead to accidents. Respect safety signs and barriers. Heed all warnings and barriers. They are there for your protection. And stay informed about new safety practices and technologies. Ongoing education is the key to a safe work environment. That concludes my safety message.
Okay, thank you very much.
District is prepared for any emergency situations. So Cliff comes to us with over 20 years of safety and security experience. He's spent many years in law enforcement, holding several positions with Salem Police. He's held leadership positions, which include the Director of Risk and Safety for Salem-Keizer School District and the Director of Public Safety and Loss Prevention at Lynn-Benton Community College. So lastly, Cliff has a dual master's degrees in Homeland Security and Emergency Management, along with a bachelor's degree in Criminal Justice. So Cliff is highly talented and highly motivated, and we are welcoming him to the team. So welcome, and would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Well, you took all my thunder. You said everything that I could say about it. No, I just wanted to say real quickly just that this is an inaugural position, and so it's a real honor to be chosen to lead safety at Cherriots, and so I'm really looking forward to working with the board, working with our stakeholders in the community to really address the challenges that we have in our community that we're going to face now and into the future. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome. And that was a happy announcement. So that'll bring us to our presentations. So we'll get started with our National Weather Service Storm Ready Community Designation presentation. That's a mouthful. General Manager Pollack?
Yeah, thanks. I'll ask Randy Navalinsky, our emergency coordinator, to please step forward and make the introductions.
Good evening, President Presley and members of the board. I'm here tonight to present to the board Cherriots Storm Ready Community Member Designation, granted by the National Weather Service. I'm also grateful for the opportunity to finally meet in person and introduce myself to the board as Cherriots Emergency Coordinator. So about the Storm Ready designation, the National Weather Service Storm Ready program recognizes emergency management programs around the country that meet guidelines demonstrating outstanding preparedness for hazardous weather and flooding. Since its inception in 1999, Storm Ready program has recognized over 2,000 communities, agencies, and groups across the country. Cherriots is the 49th entity in Oregon to receive such a designation and one of only 2 transit agencies in Oregon to have that recognition. Marion County itself is also recognized. The other community in our area to hold this designation is the city of Amstville. It is my hope that by receiving this recognition, Cherriots will inspire more local communities and businesses to look into the program and join us in becoming a storm ready, strengthening our region's resilience to severe weather events. With that in mind, I'd like to take just a moment to share a bit about what it means for Cherriots to be storm ready. The Storm Ready designation is awarded to emergency management programs that have made a firm commitment to community resilience, as well as meeting National Weather Service for weather event readiness for themselves. That criterion is to have an established emergency operations center. We certainly have one, and it's been activated too many times in the past winter. We want to get to training and exercises and leave activation alone for a winter. Access to 24/7 warning points to receive severe notifications and warnings and forecasts. An emergency operations plan, participation in community preparedness activities, which we all do in our program, and then be recognized as a weather-ready nation ambassador. This program is an initiative by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and National Weather Service to formally recognize partners who are enhancing the nation's readiness, responsiveness, and strengthening overall resilience to extreme weather, water, and climate events. Cherriots Emergency Preparedness takes pride in embodying these principles and was recognized by the National Weather Service and designated a Weather Ready Nation ambassador on August of 29th of 2024. That was part of the overall Storm Ready journey. In the fall of 2024, Cherriots Emergency Management felt that it met all the Storm Ready criteria and submitted an application to the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service then conducted a verification visit in early September, and on September 18, Cherriots received notification of the district's Storm Ready recognition. Which brings us to this evening. Tonight we are joined by a representative from the National Weather Service Portland office who will be presenting the Storm Ready designation to the board. It is my pleasure to introduce to the board Chris Burling, lead meteorologist for the Portland office. Chris?
Can you pause them from talking for a minute? I have to fix the mic. It's not
Chris, if you could just hold fast 1 second, we need to do a technical fix.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Randy, for that introduction. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me. As Randy mentioned, I'm Chris Burling. I'm a meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Portland, and I am here today to recognize Cherriots for their efforts in becoming a storm-ready organization and fostering community preparedness. So to talk a little bit more about the Storm Ready program, I'm going to get into what we do as meteorologists at the National Weather Service. So I think most people have a pretty good understanding generally of meteorologists, just on TV or in my case behind a computer screen issuing a forecast. But as far as getting into the why of what we do, it's really all about just keeping people safe, making sure people get to and from where they're going safely. So I think in that way, our two organizations have that in common. So to that end, the mission of the National Weather Service is protecting life and property and enhancing the national economy. That's something that is much easier to do when we have great organizations in the community, such as Cherriots, that are really doing the hard work of community preparedness and taking these steps to make sure that we're as prepared as we can be. For instance, in the ice storm we had last January, to know what to do when you get that forecast, to take the steps necessary to mitigate the impacts of that event to the best of our ability to prevent loss of life and damage to property, and also to look out for economic interests. So that's really why we do what we do and why we have this Storm Ready program. And to that end, I would like to commend Cherriots, and in particular, Randy Navalinsky, on his efforts in making this organization as prepared as it can be to handle these adverse weather events. Serving a community the size of Salem, that's certainly no small undertaking to make sure that this organization has the means to receive and then disseminate weather information, and has detailed emergency operations plans. Commend Randy, some of the best written plans that I've seen since I've been doing this. So thank you very much, Randy, and all of you for your efforts in making this organization as prepared as it can be to handle adverse weather, and for helping the National Weather Service to accomplish our mission. So on that note, I would like to congratulate Cherriots for becoming a storm-ready community or organization. As Randy mentioned, the second transportation organization in the state of Oregon, and for that matter, the entire Pacific Northwest. So thank you very much, and congratulations on receiving this designation.
Well, great job. job, Team Cherriots. And I guess now we'll take a picture. General Manager Pollock, will you want to come with us?
If you'd like me to, but if we could
Yeah,
come
come
up
on.
front, yeah.
Is this everything?
Right there in front, on the chariot signs.
Yeah.
Squeeze in just a little bit if possible. I'll back up, sorry. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Here we go.
I wish you all had like snow shovels and umbrellas.
Director Carney, were you saying something?
I was saying I wish that you would posed for the photo with like snow shovels and umbrellas and just really, kind of like finish the look.
We'll have that photoshopped in later. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That'll move us into our GFOA presentation.
Thank you, and I'll ask our CFO Denise LaRue to please make the introductions.
Good evening, President Eno Post-Pressy and members of the board. Tonight, I am pleased to introduce Susan Brown, who is representing the Oregon Government Finance Officers Association. Susan is joining us virtually. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. First, just a audio check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you. My name is Susan Brown. I'm the Finance and Accounting Services Manager for the City of Gresham and the immediate past president of the Oregon Government Finance Officers Association, as well as chair of the GFOA's Special Review Committee. I am sorry I was not able to join you in person to present this award, but glad I am presenting it nonetheless. I'm here this evening representing the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. Before getting into the reason I'm here tonight, I'd like to give you a little background on both OGFOA and GFOA. The Oregon Government Finance Officers Association, OGFOA, maintains a membership of approximately 500 members consisting of cities, school districts, special districts, and other government entities, along with partners from associated businesses such as banks, software companies, attorneys, and bond underwriters. The organization promotes professionalism and excellence in public financial management through a commitment to the following 4 primary goals: fostering individual professional growth, advancing the government finance profession, furthering standards and policies for the benefit of our communities and our members, and monitoring and reviewing legislative and judicial activities as they relate to our membership. The Government Finance Officers Association was founded in 1906 and represents public finance officials throughout the United States and Canada. The association has over 23,000 members from federal, state, and local governments throughout the United States and Canada. The GFOA's mission is similar to OGFOA, providing best practice guidance, networking opportunities, a large collection of publications, research, and high-quality training opportunities for those in the profession. Another program through GFOA is their recognition programs for excellence in public finance and reporting. I am pleased to be here this evening to present the Salem Area Mass Transit District with the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award, as bestowed upon the district by GFOA for its 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting program was established in 1945 to encourage and assist state and local governments to go beyond the minimum requirements of generally accepted accounting principles in preparing comprehensive annual financial reports that evidence the spirit of transparency and full disclosure. 3 reviewers, voluntary reviewers, review the ACFR using a checklist that is nearly 50 pages long with over 500 items to address. There are 125 specific items that if any one is not appropriately presented in the financial statements, that one failure could disqualify the entire report from the award. These required items may vary from being as simple as ensuring there's a table of contents to as complex as ensuring your statement properly combined the expenses of individual functions and activities with related program revenues to calculate the net expense or revenue of each function. By achieving this award, the Salem Area Mass Transit District has ensured that its financial statements are more than just numbers. Your constituents can be assured that your financial position is transparent, fully disclosed, and of the highest quality comparable at a national level. In Oregon, there were 96 total recipients of this award for 2023. This is the 12th year that Cherriots has received this recognition. I want to particularly recognize Denise LaRue for her work on the award, winning ACFR. Of course, the recognition for the receipt of this award should not only include Denise, but recognition should also be given to the entire finance department, as well as the rest of Cherriots management and staff. Lastly, the support of the board should not be overlooked. The environment of excellence is obvious, and your constituents should be proud. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you again for inviting me to come and present the award.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you again,
And
Chief Financial Officer LaRue, just for all your work and your continued dedication in making sure that this organization is just, I'm providing award-winning service, literally.
Thank you.
I would like to just validate that this is the 12th consecutive year of receiving this.
I think. I think we have some other board members that wanted to say something.
I was going to say we should applause.
Oh, well, there you go. Anyone else? Yes, Director Davidson.
I just want to stress how unusual this is. So the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, we are only now at a point where we might be able to qualify for this kind of recognition. And so the fact that Cherriots has been able to consistently do this, this is longer than many people's Duolingo streak, let alone, a consistent recognition of financial excellence. So this should be applauded. So I'm glad it is. And thank you.
I'd just like to make a caveat that I do think accounting is a lot harder than Duolingo.
You might be right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to public comment. Are there any members of the public that are present that would like to provide public comment, either in person, on the phone, or virtually? No? Okay. So that brings us to our consent calendar. Is there any item that a director wishes to pull for discussion or anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
If it's not too late to ask for a presentation, the Tyler Technologies service as a SaaS agreement. Let me get to the service software as a service. Thank you. I wouldn't mind discussing that. I've had many interactions with Tyler Technologies. I know it's a last minute request, so if we don't have the staff on hand appropriate, I understand that as well.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and pull item B6 from the consent calendar, and we'll discuss that in a moment. But is there a motion to approve the rest of the consent calendar? Yes.
I'd like to move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item B6.
Thank you very much.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Director Davidson beat you, Director Carney, just by a slim margin. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion passes unanimously. So now we'll move into items deferred from the consent calendar, which is award of contract for Tyler Technologies for SaaS-related services.
Thank you. I'll ask Ross Aguilar, our IT manager, please come forward.
I feel like I don't see you, like, ever anymore, so it's nice to have you back in the boardroom.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead.
Are there specific questions, or would you like it to have a staff presentation?
Well, I was not entirely clear on it sounded to me in the staff report like there was a shift in what Tyler is offering. And I just was not entirely clear on what that is. And then I also just wanted to inquire about the general level of service that Tyler Technologies provides, and just find out a little bit more about that relationship.
So Tyler Technologies, like many other technology companies, is moving their business model to a SaaS offering, software as a service. This is a trend we've seen in the industry, and so they're no longer supporting, or they will no longer provide updates and feature advancements for the on-premise solution. And the next evolution of their product is a SaaS offering only, and that's why we're asking to migrate to their SaaS offering.
Could you bring that down to like a little bit more of a simplistic level for folks that might not be in IT fields?
Yes. So we have the Tyler Technology servers are running in our server room here inside of this building, and that's what we referenced on-premise. It's within our we could reach it. It's in our server room. SaaS is software as a service, is going to be hosted in AWS, Amazon Web Services, and Tyler Technologies will be responsible for running the servers as well as the software and keeping them secure. Currently, Cherriots staff is responsible for the servers, the software, and keeping all the systems secure.
Thank you.
Does that help? I'm sorry.
Here, I have a question.
Director Carney, do you have another question? If not, I think we've
I
got
do.
some up here.
Yeah, I am just curious. We have been in a relationship with them since 2016. I know the state of Oregon also contracts with Tyler Technologies, and my experience with them there has been my experience with them there, but I'm wondering about the district's experience with this service provider, and just what level of customer service are we receiving, what level of communication are we receiving, and how are we treated as a client?
Thank you for your question, Director Carney. So from where the IT department sits and our relationship with Tyler Technologies and customer support, we have been receiving responses when creating tickets with them and working through issues. I know that some other departments have also dealt with Tyler support, and I can't speak to their interactions with them. I just know how my departments interacted with the Tyler Technology support. And can you remind me of the rest of your question, please?
Oh, it's just the level of customer service. I think you're getting there. I mean, my experience with Tyler is I would open a ticket and they would say they had addressed everything in the ticket. The ticket's closed, and I would say no, that we didn't. So I just want to make sure that we have a productive relationship with this group as the customer, and that we are getting what we need from this group, because my own experience in a different context has occasionally been challenging.
General Manager?
Yeah. So maybe it might be better, Director Carney, if we hear directly from the two primary chiefs who's used the software, so our Chief Financial Officer and our Chief Employee Labor Relations Officer who've been working through this. Maybe they could comment on how their experience has been. Or maybe someone else.
Let me, if I could start. So generally speaking, so we lovingly refer to our Tyler Immune as MARTI, which is our Management and Resource Tracking Instrument. So I think if we were to sort of look at a dichotomous scale about our level of satisfaction, it hovers about a 6 or a 7. We haven't fully implemented all of the modules yet, certainly not in the HR space. Denise can speak to a lot of things we have implemented on the finance/accounting/attendance, a la time cards. But there's still a ways to go. We're still introducing modules. But I think the heavier lift right now will be the HR modules, which I've asked for them to hold on implementing for a while because we're going through a lot of training right now and it's quite the heavy lift. But with regard to the sales pitch, it's going to solve a lot of our problems. That remains to be seen. But I would say, generally speaking, our response/customer service is moderate at a 6 or 7, mostly. Denise?
I would say it's at least a 6 or a 7. When we went through the implementation process, one of the things that they worked with us on was what to provide when you do need to submit a support ticket. And, part of that is screenshots of the problem that you're actually seeing. And so the actual details so that they can replicate that and see. So it's not a situation of, well, we're not seeing that on our end, so thank you very much, the ticket is closed. And so we've been following that process, and that has actually worked relatively well. So our response from them has been good. We've also, because we've relatively recently gone through the implementation process, we still have connections with quite a few people who helped on that process that we have been able to kind of reach out to, a little bit more indirectly than the support. So we've been doing fine with the process, but Deputy General Manager Trimble is correct. There are still pieces that we are implementing in finance, but we've been operating under it for quite some time, since, April of 23. So.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, I think I saw some questions from Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Hinojosa Pressy. Yeah, so it sounds like this transition is something similar to like how QuickBooks used to have a desktop version and now they've gone to something a little bit more cloud-based. Is that accurate?
Yes, that would be accurate. Yes.
And if we decided for the next year or something to not go with Tyler Technologies because that's not information that's on our servers, is that something that we would still have access to, or is that something that's now held by Tyler Technologies because it's no longer stored on our servers?
I believe that when we terminate the contract with Tyler Technologies, that we'll be able to request a copy of all of our data to transfer to a new HR or HCM ERP solution.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Laura-Midkiff, did you have a question?
Ask Sarah first.
Okay. Director Duncan?
This should be quick and easy. I know that we're doing some cybersecurity audit, or for lack of a better term. Is this going to be included in that? Because I know moving to cloud-based server comes with just different, not necessarily less, but different difficulties than having a server on site.
Thank you for your question, Director Duncan. No, this will not be included in our cybersecurity assessment since it will no longer be in our server room. So our cybersecurity assessment is local to our infrastructure here in the building.
Okay, thank you.
Director Davidson?
A few thoughts. I think one of the things we're skirting around is that Tyler Technologies, I will attribute these to things that other people have said. So Bloomberg has called Tyler Technologies a monopoly. Morningside, which is an investment reporting firm, has noted that Tyler Technologies has a widening moat in the niche market of government technology services, which is another euphemistic terms for a monopoly. And as monopolies go, they are not as responsive to market pressures. I've just done some quick internet searching, and there is the rollout from the transition to SaaS has not gone swimmingly for some jurisdictions. Now, of course, anecdotes are not determinative of how it will go for Cherriots, but I do have some reservations about hitching our wagon to this particular horse at this particular time. Could you talk to me about timeline? So I know that Tyler is moving in this direction. Do we have to move in this direction now? Could we delay a year?
Thank you for your question, Director Davison. We do not need to move to Tyler Technologies today. We are coming up upon our on-premise renewal, and so it makes sense to make the transition now so we're not renewing on-premise and then a couple months later renewing in the SaaS environment.
On our current contract, do we have a 1-year extension available to us?
I'm not sure of the details of the current contract.
Okay.
All right, Director Laura Midkiff.
Thank you. My question relates to what are we getting out of this in terms of internal services provided? Like I think David mentioned that HR will be seeing some changes. What would that look like? What are the cost savings internally? Given I would assume that there's less work on our end internally if it's going to a cloud-based model. But you or Hayal expound on that a little bit for me.
So I could talk a little bit about the HR piece. So the idea is to streamline processes. For example, one of the big selling points for at least the HR modules is would be our ability to have applicants actually apply online through the MARTI system, automatically update information into the system, automatically start collecting it so we could start talking to potential employees. Right now, everything is very manual. You can't get online and actually fill out an application. You have to print a paper copy and actually go in and bring it in or mail it in. So that's one of the big time savers, if you will, by streamlining not just the work that the HR division does, but also for the end user to be able to do that. There are some modules we're interested in using for employee evaluations, perhaps, that's been explored. And there's a management resource piece, there's an employee resource piece that we've trained managers on using and how to get into different information. There's a lot, I can't think of every single one right now, but all in the effort to streamline, which is the purpose of going through or going to an ERP system. And I know Denise can speak to some of the streamlined processes she has in Tyler Minas with regard to the budget and the accounting piece as well. So everything's not on a spreadsheet and so manual.
What are your thoughts? Is this a necessary change?
I've been through this situation before where something was on-premise or proprietary software is what I was used to, and then switched to cloud-based, and it became a functionality thing. And so when the functionality isn't there and the customer support isn't there to help with the functionality that's become obsolete, you have to move to the cloud. And so I think this is just where we're at right now.
Thank you.
Okay, for the sake of time, if there's maybe like one more question, if not, then we can move forward. Okay, all right. So, thank you, all of you, for entertaining all those questions and answering for us. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve this item?
I will. I move that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Tyler Technologies for, I gotta go to the title again. Service as a software related services for an amount not to exceed $326,710.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the item or on the motion? Yes, Director Davidson?
I'll preemptively explain my vote that I would perhaps be a yes vote at a future date, but I'm going to be a no vote today.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, Director Laura Midkiff?
Thank you. I'd like to find an alternative to Tyler Technologies if possible. I'm not against cloud-based changes, but I'm probably going to vote no on this.
Okay. All right, so now I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the contract, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
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 Okay, I heard 1, 2, 3, 4. Any nays or no?
No. Davidson.
No. Duncan?
Joaquin?
Okay, then so we've got 4 yeses, 3 nos, so the motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty, so that brings us into action items. We'll look at award of contract for enterprise van pool program. General Manager.
Yes, I'll ask our Transportation Options Coordinator, Kiki Doman, to please come up and make the report. I was looking at the wrong-
Excellent. Good evening, President Enos Pressey, members of the board. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. I'm pleased to be here recommending on behalf of the district staff for the contract renewal with EAN Holdings, also known as Commute with Enterprise, for van pool services. The district is excited for the opportunity to continue our strong partnership with Enterprise and to also provide this van pool subsidy program. This federally funded program extends the reach of transit by increasing access to employment sites outside of the fixed route system with an affordable commute option, while also reducing CO2 emissions and drive-alone trips taken in our region. So, as listed in our memo, staff recommends the board to authorize General Manager to execute a 3-year contract with EAN Holdings for van pool services for an amount not to exceed $975,000. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
All righty, do we have any questions for Coordinator Doman? Yes, Director Davidson.
Thank you, President. A question that I would love to have answered is, I know that currently our van pools, they display prominently on the vehicles, Commute by Enterprise. I'm wondering if there's anything in the current or future contract language that would prohibit us from putting perhaps an addition or in lieu of funded by Cherriots or a service of Cherriots, and if you could maybe speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the idea and question. Director Davidson, sorry. Thank you so much. So yes, nothing in the contract currently prohibits that idea moving forward, and we are actually currently researching and gathering info together on how we can make that happen.
Wonderful. That's really great to hear. I think it's an important part that the public recognizes that this is a service that we are funding with, of course, as the staff memo notes, with the support of SCATS and ODOT, but that this is indeed a service of Cherriots and that we can get some of that earned, it's not earned media, I don't know, help me out here, what is this?
Recognition.
Good vibes, that's a technical term here. So thank you, Director Duncan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, any other questions? Yeah, that's now an official term that we will be seeking for.
For the record, Director Duncan, off mic, told me good vibes.
I totally believe that. Okay. Director Duncan.
Yeah, good vibes all around. So I already kind of know the answer to this question, but it's mostly just for the public. We've worked with Enterprise for quite a few years now, and my understanding is there isn't really a local equivalent that we could even, like, if we wanted to, was kind of our understanding is that size, breadth, and such of this company has been part of the reason why they continue to be our partner, and I was hoping you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
Just I know there are some mixed feelings about enterprise for various reasons. So yeah.
Thank you, Director Duncan. So currently, you are correct. This Commute with Enterprise is the only van pool service within Oregon that could have the capacity to serve our region in the way that it does, and the needs, and meet the needs. So, and for growth as well.
Simple. I appreciate you saying something about it, though. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one.
Yes, Director Carney.
Thank you, President and host Pressy. I am curious, how do we, I feel like my limited understanding of van pool services is that it takes a certain amount of people to sign up for one, and then you can qualify for a van pool, and then you've got a van pool, and then if your numbers drop again, you lose your van pool. We lost a lot of van pools when everybody started working from home, and the numbers are increasing, and we're watching the numbers kind of shift in terms of where the service delivery is happening. And if this contract is for providing van pool services, how does the numbers we're looking at shift? How do the number of vans shift to accommodate? Do they grow within that space, and is there a cap, or is this number like dynamic and we're not seeing it? I'm just curious. Does my question make sense? If it doesn't make sense,
I'm trying to think that through. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're asking how are we going to accommodate growth and.
Well, right. I think, I don't know how much one van pool would cost, like one van, right? If we just had one van. And I'm not sure what is included in this contract to provide van pool services if it's not based on a price per van. So I guess I'm trying to understand how we are at this number of $325,000 per year. Does that make sense? Is it related to that equals 6 vans?
Yes, I think.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let me give you some background. So if I understand your question, initial part of your question, so if there's a group of people, they have, prepared to go in similar origin and destination, and they group together for a van pool. And if there's an incident like half of them or maybe majority of them are leaving, that system isn't working for them, then they typically work with Kiki and the van pool to find a solution for that. They recruit new people who has similar kind of destination that work for them. So either they merge with another van pool, they where serve their need, or they just we just have to come up with a new solution. So we don't leave anyone behind, but we just have to come up with another solution who have kind of similar origin and destination. In terms of the numbers, so this is the first time around we're going to be using the grant fund for operating this program. This 375, we assume that, and the number that we have right now, it's 10 years old. So the numbers we're expecting, the cost of operating van pools will increase since the last time we had the cost from the van pools from Commute with Enterprise. So we believe to maintain the existing level of service, it would cost us around 375. So our initial goal is to maintain the existing level of service. And then potentially, if there is room, then we're going to work on additional improvement or potential future growth. And then we're going to keep exploring additional funding source if there is any, so for future potential growth. So that's how we came up with our goal is to maintain the existing level. We don't want to deny anything, but for future growth, everything, anytime there's a new request, everything goes through Kiki, and then we evaluate a whole bunch of things and make sure that if we can fit them in the existing van pools, then we just find a solution with the existing services. So that's the process. There's a long-standing process to facilitate the need of the community folks, whoever need those particular services, if that answers your question.
I think so. Can you just help me further understand how many vans will we be supporting currently, like year one, right now?
So there's Currently not a flat rate for one van. The overall cost of a van is based on the size of van, the distance traveled, the gas. There's a lot. Yeah, so it just kind of depends on the model.
Okay.
If the
I think
van. So yeah, it'll vary by every van.
If I
I
could,
think
I
I'm-
think to answer, we pay a flat subsidy per van.
Okay.
It's only not even half the cost of the van. So that $975, that is monthly subsidies to a van pool to help defray a portion of their costs.
And that's a not to exceed amount for the totality of 3 years, right?
Correct.
So that figure could be lower at the end of 3 years,
That
and
is
very
correct.
likely will be.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank
And
you.
then in the event, so in this flat rate, we're proposing a simplified version of this by van size, so that's gonna help us efficiency-wise. And yes, there is even within the subsidy, the total cost of subsidy should not exceed 50% of the total operating cost of the van pool. So, and we're at 28%, I guess.
Yes,
So
currently.
we're doing very good.
Okay, thank you. I always would love to give you your full title, and I'm just gonna go with Officer Ulazum, because Chief Planning and Development Officer is a lot. Director Navarro?
Thank you, President Hinojosa Presi. The question I had was, is this service the same service that is offered to farm workers that work at the same space, and during seasons they all might move to the same location?
Correct. So like our current van pools, yes,
And so
that go to our agriculture and farm sites. Is that where we're? Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
And so I think that there was one just outside of Kaiser, I think it was the Iris Farm.
Yes.
And so I know that they had expressed interest in utilizing this service. Have we gotten like any surveys and feedback from the riders to know like how supportive the service is to them?
Yes, we've done surveys with our existing vans. I did talk with that employer earlier this year, actually, and it just didn't work with shift times and the amount and commute length. Because for a van pool to be viable, we definitely want to assess and making sure that it's viable for everyone and cost effective. And so making sure that folks are having at least 20 miles a trip one way is a pretty good van pool trip plus. So yes, and we do have our surveys that we do with our van pool provider as well, with all of our current vans and both on the employer leadership side, making sure that we get their input, but then also the van pool providers themselves.
So for a farm owner like the Iris Valley Farms, they're a little too close to Kaiser to be able to be a viable solution, but would something like Monrovia be a better candidate? I'm not sure if you're familiar
I
with.
think if I understand the response, it was that the employees were not more than 20 miles from the job site.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's when it's not necessarily like a viable prospect. It's not that the farm is too close to Kaiser.
Okay.
Yeah. So from an array of services perspective, if it's 20 miles or greater, there's an opportunity for van pools. If it's less than that, we work with them to maybe form carpools.
Correct.
But then they're on their own.
And we did do outreach, exactly. Thank you, General Manager. Yes, we did do outreach for their employees and trying to make sure that they know about all of their options that will be best fit for them. And then also if they're work all year round or if they're seasonal, that all kind of comes into play as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions no? All right. Well, thank you very much, Coordinator Deman. I will now entertain a motion for this contract.
I move that the board authorize the general manager to execute a 3-year contract with EAN Holdings LLC for van pool services for an amount not to exceed $975,000.
Seconded.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on the item? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I think I heard a unanimous, So motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, that moves us to approval of STIF formula recommendations. General Manager Pollock.
Thank you. I'll ask Chief Ullazoom to please come forward and present the report.
See, like, why doesn't Chief Planning and Development Officer have like a fun acronym like churro?
CPDO.
Oh man, we've got two chiefs.
Yeah.
I feel special.
All right. Good evening, President Enos Presi and other Board of Directors. I'm not, is it working? Okay, all right. So I'm here to present the STIF formula funding, brief discussion on what it is and how all those different funding breakdown, how it started. And then in the end, I'm going to provide the STIFAC recommendation for different projects that we received as a QE. So I'm going to hand it over to our CFO, Denise LaRue, to provide us the context of what is the STIF Formula Fund and how much money that we have in the Salem Area Mass Transit District STIF plan. And then I'm going to take it from there, provide more project-specific updates, more details. So I'll hand it over to Denise LaRue.
Thank you. So as some background regarding the 2025-27 biennium STIF plan, the Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund, or STIF as we call it, was established in 2017. And it's a dedicated funding source for improving, maintaining, and expanding public transportation for all users. The funds are allocated on a biennium basis by the Oregon Department of Transportation, and Salem Area Mass Transit District is the designated qualified entity, or QE. As the QE, we oversee the distribution of STIF funds in Marion and Polk counties. And the QE governing body, therefore you all, must approve the STIF plan. FY 26-27 STIF plan was developed based on revenue estimates provided by ODOT in August of 2024 and then confirmed in November 2024. And there are two types of funding. The STIF payroll-based formula funds may be used to support planning, operation, and administration of public transportation. The STIF population-based formula funds provide funding for older adults and people with disabilities. So the FY 26-27 STIF plan is being presented to you, and this funding is effective 7/1/25 through 6/30 of 27. The revenues for the district that are planned for payroll-based consist of $16.5 million. At the request of ODOT, we projected 20% over, which is an additional $3.3 million. We have an estimated unspent prior biennium balance, and it is estimated, this will change before the end of the fiscal year, is $22.6 million, bringing that total to $42.4 million. And those estimated unspent prior biennium funds, some are set aside for large capital projects, such as the South Salem Transit Center. So that's a way of being able to use some of that funding for those large projects. The total planned STIF population-based funds consist of $1.8 million. The 20% over projection, again, is $400,000, bringing us to a total balance of $2.1 million is estimated for this next biennium.
Correct. Thank you, Denise, for providing the context. So I'm going to provide you, this is for Salem Area Mass Transit District STIF plan, and this funding does include the existing biennium funding and all the unspent previous biennium funding, which is also known as reserve. This is the breakdown of the major categories where we will be spending money, and we have budget for those. About 56.8% are budgeted for local fixed route service enhancements, and the second largest category is for our Cherriots contracted services, and about 16% we're planning to spend budget on the capital projects. And I'm going to break down and provide the project-specific details in the next few slides. So one of the major areas where we'll be spending our budget is for our local fixed route services, which is about 56.82% in the STIF plan, and which is accounted for $25.2 million. In the FY26, there is a $10.6 million reserve fund. That's why this FY26 number is much higher than FY27 funding. And the reason we included in FY26, we want to make sure that that reserve funding is available in day one, and any unspent funding will roll over ultimately into FY27. And the major projects that we have budget for this includes maintaining the Cherriots local weekend service, our brand new Route 22 service, and also weekday 1X service. So in this current biennium, so FY24 and the first quarter of FY25, because of this funding availability, we have added 642,000 new rides. So this STIF funding is fundamental for us, and we're providing some critical service to the community. This is Cherriots contracted services that includes our Cherriots regional service and our shop and ride, and also our complimentary paratransit service, also known as Lyft. And again, in the FY26, we have some reserve built in so that it can roll over in FY27. That's why that number is a little higher. And we have about 23.6% budget allocated in our STIF plan for maintaining these contracted services. As I mentioned, this is for Cherriots regional services, shop and ride, preventive maintenance, whatever it takes to keep our operations running. The next one is Youth Zero Fare Program, which is pretty much all of you know, very successful, and we have been getting more ridership each and every day. And as of this quarter, we have about 1/4 of our ridership is coming from this Youth Zero Fare Program. So I don't need to say anything else, but state legislation that requires us to have at least 1% of our STIF funding to be allocated for youth program, but in our plan we have a little over 3%, which translates into $1.3 million. And this is the third biggest item where we have the majority of the funding, which is capital projects. About 16% of our STIF funding is budgeted for that. And surely in FY26 we have a huge share of that, 6.8 million of that, and that includes about $5.9 million for South Salem Transit Center construction and land acquisition purposes. And also in both FY26 and FY27, we have budget for ongoing bus stop improvement projects. And this is the summary of the major categories where we will be spending our funding in this next 2 years. I'd like to highlight the subsidized fare program that we use as part of the regional fare unification, so that our riders, they don't have to pay additional fare, so that is there. And then STIF administration is the staff time as a QE, qualified entity, that we spend to administer all the other public transit service providers, also known as PTSB. And we're spending only $4,000 for the STIF administration. So now I'd like to provide the QE, qualified entity perspective, so that all those numbers, 42 million and 2 million population base, 44 million, that is Salem Area Mass Transit District STIF plan. But moving forward, this is for 25-27 qualified entities STIF formula funding. So that means those are the new money that the board will take actions on. As part of that population-based STIF formula funding for 25-27 biennium, we have about 2.8 million, which includes 20% additional as ODOT directed us to submit. And then payroll portion, we have 21.8 million, which that number also has 20% additional number than August projection from ODOT. And I'd like to provide some process that we have used as part of the solicitation and how we selected the projects for funding. ODOT issued the notification that funding is available on August 27. Following that, we have issued as a QE a public notice and published on a Statesman Journal and also on our webpage, both English and Spanish, on September 18 and at least for 30 days. Our applications are due on October 25th to QE, which is Salem Area Mass Transit District. And then on November 1st, the STFAC members reviewed all the applications and did the scoring and made a recommendation, which I am presenting right now for the board to take actions. And once board approved the STFAC recommendation or the plan for 25-27 biennium QE STIF plan, then QE, Salem Area Mass Transit District, will submit the final application to ODOT before the January 16, which is the deadline. With that being said, I have also attached a 2-pager summary applications of all the project applications that we have received as part of this new money, and which is attached with the board package. For the STIF population-based, we have $2.8 million budget, and then we have shared this information based on the existing funding, and this is how much they could request for. And then finally, we have received about $3.06 million, which is $207,000 more than available funding. And then this time around, we have a new PTSP, public transit service provider, which is City of Monmouth for their Monmouth Independence Trolley operations. And the STFAC made this recommendation based on the merit of the project, and their priority was to maintain the existing level of service first before adding anything new to the table. So, and again, this is for people with disabilities and seniors, dedicated for those core group. With that being said, basically STFAC recommended anything for the existing PTSP, whatever they ask for, and then the remaining funding of $14,352 were allocated for City of Monmouth, and that balances out of that deficit of $207,000. And then this is the summary of just percentage-wise, whoever received the funding. For us, Salem Area Mass Transit District received the majority of the funding because we cover majority of the service area and the services. The second highest number is for City of Woodburn, about 22%. And also City of Monmouth and West Valley Health received the corresponding numbers. And City of Silverton received about $50,000. And this is the larger funding pot for the STIF formula funding. This is where we have received applications outside of our QE area and also new application from City of Monmouth. And again, the funding available for the STIF payroll portion is $21.8 million, but we have received $22.3 million worth of application and for funding request, which is about $533,000 more than available funding. And even with this, all the PTSPs, they did the presentation and explained their projects before the STFAC members, and STFAC members made their recommendation, and again, the priority was to maintain the existing level of service before adding anything new, and this is their recommendation. City of Silverton did not receive their requested $326,000, and because they did not complete the task, the deliverables that were due from past couple of bienniums ago. So the STFAC decided to distribute that funding to the other PTSPs. And with that being said, the final recommendation is here. So Salem Area Mass Transit District, City of Woodburn, and the City of Monmouth will receive this recommended funding based on the STFAC. And which allows us, like, basically 91% of the funding will go to the Salem Area Mass Transit District and 3% to the City of Monmouth, and Woodburn will receive 6% of the total allocated STIF payroll portion of the funding. And that concludes the funding decision and the process. If there's any question, I would be happy to answer.
All right. Do we have any questions for Officer Ulazum, Chief Ulazum? No? Okay. I have a total semantics question. Do we set the application process, or is this like mandated from another entity?
You mean the process in terms of the timeline, or?
Or just like what the application entails?
Yeah, I think the ODOT has a template application, what information they should submit, and this is, yes, coming from ODOT, and they need to follow those process, and they need to complete those forms and submit it to us. In terms of the timeline, yes, again, it is dictated by ODOT's timeline, and ODOT simply provide this funding is available on this date, and they have an end date of January 16, and the rest is QE to figure out, okay, all this internal milestone, how we can accomplish that, because this recommendation has to go through the board. The rest, QE, find out all this internal milestone. But from ODOT perspective, they just make the announcement, funding is available. This is when you need to submit the final recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Director Laura Midkiff?
Thank you. Just a point of curiosity, I grew up close to Silverton. What is Silverton losing without the STFAC formula funding? What's happening there?
Well, they're not losing anything. So they have a lot of funding, unspent funding for the last 2 biennium. They have a lot of projects they have not started yet, and they're supposed to do back in 2019-21 biennium. So, and the STFAC believes that, yeah, it's about the project delivery. There are other entities, they need the funding right now who they can spend it immediately, whereas Silverton, they have the money for a long time, but they're not spending it. So that's why STFAC made the recommendation, yeah, you better complete all those milestones that you have promised in the last 2 bienniums, and then definitely we can consider for future.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? No? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the board adopt resolution number 2024-05, approving the list of projects and funding amounts of the 2025-2027 biennium STIF formula funding projects as recommended by the STFAC. And direct the general manager to submit the qualified entity STIF formula funding recommendation to the STIF plan to ODOT in accordance with the STFAC recommendation by January 16th, 2025.
I'll second.
All right, a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the item? Yes, Director Davidson.
Out of an abundance of caution, I'll note a potential conflict of interest. There's not any real conflict of interest. However, I am employed by the Oregon Department of Transportation, though I do not work on this program or have any direct interaction with this program.
I think you just wanted to remind us all of your new job.
I'd rather not be dragged in front of the Government Ethics Commission.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Right? Did I hear you say aye?
I said it.
Okay, all right, so the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
This will bring us into informational reports and a service change briefing for January 2025. General Manager Pollock.
Yes, thank you. I'll ask Jeremy Jorstad from the Planning Department to please come forward.
Good evening. Sorry, Director, geez.
It's okay.
Let me take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. You are technically sitting, I'm not allowed to call this anymore. I was going to say you are technically sitting on a witness stand, so.
That'll help. Thanks for.
More relaxed.
Yeah.
Thanks for that person.
Thank you, Director Ainahos Pressey, members of the board. I'm here to give you all a January service change briefing. This service change will begin on Sunday, January 5th, and be in effect through Saturday, May 3rd. We have a couple local bus service weekday schedule adjustments. Planning staff has been using a new tool to analyze schedule adherence and on-time performance, which allows weeks and months of trip data to be captured and analyzed in a much shorter period of time. Now that this data can be analyzed easier, changes to improve a route's performance can be implemented sooner. For the service change, January service change, we focused on routes 11, 14, and 19. These changes will use the current run times and spread them over the routes and time points differently based on the captured data. We're also making an adjustment to deadhead trips. During one of our Talk with a Planner sessions, we were asked by an operator to look at deadhead times from Del Webb to the Downtown Transit Center in the mornings. We've looked at those times and determined that an increase is necessary. Those times have been adjusted as part of the service change. We're also updating Kaiser Transit Center bay assignments with our battery electric bus fleet going into service and all of our infrastructure installed. The bay assignments have been updated. For regional bus service, we've removed a stop on the Route 45 Central Polk County route. The stop located at 888 Monmouth Cutoff Road has been removed at the request of the new property owners. Riders may still request the bus to deviate to be dropped off or picked up from this address. And holiday service, during the service change, we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday, January 20th, which will operate at a Saturday service level, and President's Day, Monday, February 17th, which will operate at a Sunday service level. And Cherriots Lift will have the same span of service as Cherriots Local on those days. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions? Yes, Director Davidson.
Thank you, Planner George.
Sure.
So feel free to punt this question to a different time of your own choosing, but the changes to Route 11, will I be able to catch the Route 11 from my Route 4 more easily as a result of these changes? Because I seem to always miss it.
I can't answer that question at the time. If you give me
That's
some
fine.
times,
Sure,
like
yeah.
when you're there, I'm happy to
Okay.
look at that.
I mean, also, if you want to tell me like which bus stop to get off at, because I try different ones. I get
Yeah.
off at Ricky, I get off at State. It just doesn't work. I do what the app tells me. It doesn't seem to work.
Happy to help. Shoot me an email.
Okay, will do. Thank you very much.
Sure, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Look, when there is a planner available, I'm absolutely going to ask Planner Jorstad for some help.
Well, I mean, I think it's also very interesting, and I will get to you, Director Laura Midkiff, but about the Talk with a Planner session, what does that look like?
It's relatively new, so I think, let's see, service change before last, we implemented that. So we implement the service change, and then the following month, so for the January service change, it'll be February. We'll have 3 opportunities for anybody really, mostly staff. It's an internal process, but to come and exactly what it says, talk with a planner. We block out a conference room for a day here, Kaiser Transit Center, Del Webb. So just trying to be open to ideas, and we want to help, but we obviously don't know all the problems, so it's an opportunity to do that.
I love that. I'm really, like, I love to hear that like folks can go in and
Yeah.
like actually provide input, and then maybe even help some other folks that aren't in those day-to-day operations kind of understand what goes into making these decisions.
Yeah,
So,
it's
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to that, yeah, last time we had like July, and then there was another round in October, and every service change. So the whole point is listening to the people and listening to their ideas. Oftentimes we receive, can you combine these 2 routes, or like things like what Director Davidson was referring, like missing these kind of things, so better connecting different bus routes. So we have received some really phenomenal feedback from the people who actually use or drive those particular routes. And then we don't stop here, so once we listen everything, and then we write a memo, basically provide a feedback, whatever question they pose in there, and then we publish it and share it with everybody in the organization. So listening to them, their voices are heard, and then we're taking some actions, and sometimes it's quick, that yes, we're gonna take care of this in the next service change. Sometimes we provide an update, yeah, we're working on it, then it'll be available in next year or in a couple of years. So it's really important for the district that we are open to ideas, and also we hear your voice, and we provide feedback, and we care.
I love that. Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Director Laura Midkiff, and then I'll come back to you, Director Duncan.
Okay, now I have 2 questions. Do you also participate in Planning Day?
I'm sorry?
Planning Day?
Planning Day.
It's like this national day where planners get together and talk about planning with people. Do you guys participate in that?
feel like I'm
The city does, the county does.
It's November 8th, I believe.
Yeah, it
World
is.
Planning Day. Yeah, I mean, I used to do that, but I mean, that's a good idea. We can think about it.
Okay. My question was about a property owner asking for a stop to be removed. Just curious, does that happen often? Who can I talk to? No, I'm kidding. I love my stop in front of my house.
This is a rare
Okay, a
occasion
rarity.
because the stop was on private property. So most of our stops are in the public right of way.
Got it.
So.
All right, thank you.
All right, Director Duncan.
I have maybe two questions, depending on how you answer the first one. And I think you already said, but I'm unclear. Are these meet with a planner sessions for staff, the public, or both?
Staff.
Staff, okay. Have we ever considered doing a public option? And has that happened before? Did it go well? I was recently at a conference, and it was brought up at that conference. And so this was just a great time to bring it up in front of everybody. So, yeah.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Have we done it in the past?
I'll be honest, that sounds like it could get unruly. I mean, we could do a very particularly specific one, I think. That one you'll have to direct a lot more.
I've seen you all have a table out at the DTC. I don't know what the occasion was.
Sure, we do outreach for different types of projects, but not just a specific come talk with a planner.
Yeah, I guess I always use that occasion to then badger you about transfers, so.
Yeah, I think our talk with planners are more indirect. We have open houses for events, and it's kind of whatever they want to talk about.
I love having these just for staff. I don't think that we should just necessarily open them up. Staff, honestly, are the eyes and ears anyway. Just so that everyone knows that I'm not totally crazy and asking for a free-for-all. My experience was, I believe this was City of Salem originally was doing their planning session, but they brought basically like the map of the city, and they had little different colored pins that we were able to put in for different problem areas. So it was rather streamlined. You had very specific things that you could say, like, I have trouble making this. So for example, for transit, be like, I have trouble making this stop, or things like that. Sure. Not necessarily just a crazy free-for-all. And I experienced this at a Rotary, which is already a pay-to-play kind of high-level entry type of event. So not perfectly transferable. But anyway, I'm segueing. So thank you very much. I think this is great. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
But I will second a very specifically directed, open to the public conversation. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, next up, we've got our fiscal year 2025 quarter one strategic plan report.
All right, I'll ask Bobby Kidd, our Strategic Initiatives Administrator, please come forward.
All right, good evening, President Hinojosa Pressey and members of the board. Thank you so much for having me this evening to talk about quarter one of fiscal year 25 strategic plan update. Just a reminder of our guiding principles. I like to have this up and present at the beginning of all of the presentations around the strategic plan, because these are really our guiding principles, how we show up every day and the reason why we're here. Okay, so this past quarter, since we are currently in quarter two, I'm talking about quarter one tonight. So we are kicking off working toward our 2025 success outcomes. And as a reminder, they are under 4 categories: community value, customer satisfaction, culture of ownership, which is employee-based, and the financial sustainability piece. So our goal, what success looks like for the district for community value, is to maintain a community value score of over 84. We have completed the community value and customer service surveys for over this fall, and the results are coming in the next 2 weeks. So we will be able to update that. I will be able to report that during quarter two report. And then our goal for customer satisfaction is to maintain a customer net promoter score for fixed route no less than 52, and for Lyft no less than 51. And again, I will be able to update those scores next quarter. And then culture of ownership, increase our employee engagement score over the previous year by 5 percentage points. The employee engagement survey is conducted in the spring, so I will be able to update that in quarter 3 or quarter 4, depending upon when we get the results. And then financial sustainability. So we are in year 3 of our original strategic planning process around financial sustainability. And the goal is to deliver a full capital program budget and successful completion of triennial review. And that is in process. So we have 16 organizational tactics that are currently being worked on across all divisions and all stakeholders internally. And all of those tactics fall under those 4 success outcomes. So these are the tactics that are going to increase the scores that we have identified for what success means for us. I'm going to highlight 3 tactics, and the first one being improved technology services. So every quarter, we meet with the tactic owners and their teams, and we discuss the report and their updates specific to the tactic. And something you'll notice this year is that the milestones are yearly based. They're not broken down by quarter. So before we had milestones broken down, 5 to 6 per quarter. Now they're yearly milestones, and so they're updating us per quarter on those yearly milestones. So for improved technology services, so monitoring of technology systems is an ongoing effort, but in Q1, systems slated to be replaced in fiscal year 25 have been identified. Systems for fiscal year 26 will be identified and submitted to the capital investment plan. And the PMO has included IT in each project as part of the project charters. And then something I would like to highlight as well that IT did was for October Cybersecurity Awareness Month, IT used the Know Before's cyber awareness campaign to educate users on cyber-related topics. IT also changed its strategy from once a year, 45-minute training, to a less than 10-minute training once per month. And this allows Cherriots employees to keep cybersecurity top of mind and current. So lots of great things happening in IT. So the second tactic I'd like to highlight is the improved project performance and management, and my goodness, is there a lot of work being done in this regard. So the project control plan was implemented in July of 2024, so that's been a huge success thus far. The project management office, or the PMO, met with each department division in September and October to brainstorm ideas for not only fiscal year 26's project requests, but also projects identified for 2 to 5 year range and 6 to 10 year range. This comprehensive list includes capital projects, operating projects, capital purchases, as well as needs for the district from all areas within the organization. And then the PMO is conducting a scoring and ranking analysis based on a variety of factors that will provide the Capital Programs Committee, or CPC, data to base project decisions from. And then finally, the PMO, well, not finally, there's a lot. I can only highlight so much, but the PMO also created a project request form, PRF, with both instructions and ICE tabs in order to accurately represent the process for project advisors, which have been very, very helpful. Speaking from experience, I've used this, it's great. And then finally, the last tactic I would like to highlight is improve safety and security. So as mentioned earlier, Deputy General Manager was able to introduce the new Chief Safety Officer, so that occurred in Q1. And the DGM, Risk Manager, and Security Emergency Manager have had several sessions with focus on updating the new requirements for the agency safety plan. The team is working on new metric requirements, and those will be completed in Q2. So I can only highlight so many, but these 3 tactics really stood out to me organizationally, and we mustn't forget that there are also 18 divisional tactics being worked on currently as well. So we have a dashboard that was created by the amazing board clerk, and this is a snapshot from the dashboard. So this is just a snapshot from Q1, so there's more progress that's happened in Q2, but we're going to look at the progress updates for Q1. Let's start in the far right. There are 16 out of 16 organizational tactics that are in progress. And then the divisional tactics, 2 have been not started yet, and then there are 18 in progress and 2 not started. So that means there are 20 total. I misspoke earlier. And then on the left-hand side, it's just a breakdown of how these tactics are divided amongst the divisions. So a couple of highlights from this presentation is we have kicked off the tactics and all of the work around these projects in Q1, and we are moving through. We're nearing the end of Q2 as we speak. And then to reiterate that the community and customer surveys were completed in this fall, and results will be coming soon. And then something that also happened is we kicked off the strategic planning process for fiscal year 26. That is a while away, but we need to start planning for it now. So we kicked that off last week with the executive leadership team. They're going out to their teams. We're going to be using the results of the surveys to guide that process. And by the end of January, we're going to have the tactics identified for fiscal year 26 so we can budget for them. So that's exciting. All right, I would love to take any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? No? No questions? Oh my God.
Are you disappointed?
Yes, I am. Like, y'all are a chatty board. I'll ask some semantics question. What are the 2 tactics that haven't been started yet?
That would have been great for me to write down. I don't have them in front of me. They're divisional level, so they're not one of those 16 that I highlighted that are organizational, but I will get that to you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no,
Great question.
It's been some great work that y'all are undertaking. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so that will bring us to our performance report.
Yes, so I'll ask Chief Uolazu to please come forward to present the report.
Good evening again, President Enos Presi and other Board of Directors. I'm here to present fiscal year 2025 Quarter 1 Performance Report, Organizational Performance Report. And I'm going to provide a system overview, what happened in this first quarter, and then some comparison to the last time and the same time frame the last year, and some high-level overview of some major programs that we have, including Youth Zero Fare Program, Better Transit Service Lift, Benpool, and others. So starting in the 3 months, July, August, and September, so what happened in those 3 months, some major incidents, starting with July 1, real-time passenger information beta testing. So as we have mentioned multiple times, that we have Swiftly as an interim solution to provide the real-time prediction to our customers until we have our CAD-AVL system fully operational. So we started the beta testing back in July with those feed from the Swiftly. And then in August, that continued, beta testing continued, but also at the same time, we started the route validation process for our AVAIL, CAD-AVL system. So writing all the vehicles and making sure that all the announcements and everything is accurate. So that process started in the month of August and continued. And in September, we have implemented the service change for September 2024. So many other incidents happened, but those are the key highlights for that 3 months period. And I'm going to break it down some other information in terms of the system-wise performance. One of the key indicators that we'd like to highlight is the ridership. This is one of the key things, but this is not the everything. That being said, in FY25, the first quarter, we have about 895,000 rides, which is 7.1% higher than the FY24 Q1. And again, from our surveys in terms of the ridership, fixed route is still the backbone of our system, where majority of our service and ridership comes from, whether it comes to revenue hours or the coverage or the people that we that use our system. So that's where our majority of the focus are. Trying to provide a comparison of, and a slightly better understanding of breakdown by 3 months, and for both local and regional, and trying to provide a comparison of the last year, same time around. In FY25 are the red lines. You have seen that those are slightly higher than the FY24 numbers, so which is a promising sign. For both local and regional, we have seen continued ridership growth, which is what we aim for. And in the actual performance report, we have provided detailed breakdown of each route, and district has set performance targets in terms of the ridership per revenue hours, and some of those exceeded those, and some of those are yet still chasing that target, and others are like underperforming. So it's just a high-level overview on the weekdays, Route 19 and 21 consistently, they're weekdays, weekend, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're the best performer when it comes to the route productivity. And if you look at some new routes like 16 and 7, those are local routes, but they're really doing very good job on that in terms of the ridership. And 40X, I would like to give a shout out. This is the only route that we have. It's on the verge to meet the target line, and in X means it's regional service. So it's one of those routes that's we're so optimistic in terms of moving people to their destination. It's doing really good job on that. I'd like to mention that not only just weekdays, but also in the weekends. So. And some key takeaways for the local weekday. 14 of the 21 routes showed some sort of increase when it comes to productivity. So, and those 7, those are not. We're exploring what we can do. Is it a connectivity issues, or is it just not enough frequency in those service areas? So we're exploring those. And some other additional insight of the report that includes, you may have seen that boarding per revenue hour decreased by slightly, and it's just 1.35%, even though your ridership increased by 7%, because we have a brand new route, Route 22, which is very highly frequent service. We added a whole bunch of revenue hours, but the ridership is not up there yet, but we're working on our marketing team, and we're working on specific tactics, how we can reach out to those people who live in and around those Route 22, and a specific targeted outreach is being planned and hopefully very soon will be implemented. And our expectation is the ridership will catch up soon. And as usual, this is not a surprise that Route 11 is the highest ridership in our system, and this time around we have about 11,446 more rides. This is a gain, net gain in there. And another insight you may have seen in the performance report, some routes have seen significant ridership gain. I would say I use the word exceptional, which is 20% more than the last year around. But then again, keep that in the mind. The reality check is the productivity is still low for those. I mean, those who are performing really bad, but it's 20% more, but still not met the target yet. Routes like 26 and 27. So at least the hope is it's heading to the right trajectory, but I'd like to highlight that. And another key indicator that I'd like to mention, this is system performance report, and since we have the Swiftly dashboard, that now we have all those detailed data. So now we can see what's going on by route, by time of day. We have all those data. And the thing is, even though our goal is to have 85% or higher for our local services, but for this time around, FY25 Q1, those 3 months, we have seen slight decrease of the on-time performance. And partially, it's because of a lot of early departure. So anytime when an operator leaves before the scheduled time, even if it's 5 seconds early, it is still early. You're not supposed to leave before the MDP, like ping. So we're working on it. Our transportation team is aware of this issue. So once we work on that, and I think it's fixable, that will help us to improve the on-time performance way above 85%. So work in progress on that. And this is a snapshot of all those routes that we have, and I don't know if you can read this, but the whole summary is sometimes like Route 11 is the highest number of ridership, but sometimes their on-time performance suffers, and sometimes some of those routes are really low productive when it comes to like they're probably just roaming around, but their on-time performance is probably higher. But so this is the trade-off, so we need to think and work on how we can find the best solution and best use of our resources. I'd like to give a shout out again for the Youth Fair program, which has been consistently outperforming our expectation. And this time around, this is not a surprise. So we have seen total youth ridership increase in our local system about 224,000, and the regional system about just a little over 7,000 more ridership, and we're on a rocket ship, so it's keep going up. And now I'd like to provide some service KPI on our complimentary paratransit service, which is also known as Lyft. This is probably after many months we have hit the on-time performance goals of 91%. So since we adopted the new technology, VIA, so things have evolved and improved over the months. Now users are getting used to with it. So it's the news, and I give a shout out to the team who managed this system, 91%. So that's a good thing. And there's a typo in there for the rides per revenue hour. It's actually 2.4, so it's not 2.13. I apologize for that. And then overall, in this time around, we have seen about 20.3% more ridership, so which is promising, very impressive, and productivity is still rising. And in terms of we're also tracking a new KPI for this particular service is shared ride. So how many times are vans moving more than one people, so at least two or more people, so the best use of our resources. And the technology tool, the VIA, it's helping us to optimize those resources and better scheduling and picking more people using the same time and resources. So I've been tracking this, it's not here, but it's about 66% cases we have shared rides, so which is really good, and it's growing. So last time I reported was 64%, now it's 66%. And similarly, the satisfaction-wise, we have about 4.8 rating out of 5. So, and then about 90% of those who provided us feedback provided us as a 5-star feedback rating. Good stuff in there. And this is for our van pool service, and so far it's pretty successful service that we have in not only just us, I would say in the whole state of Oregon. We have roughly about 37 van pools operating in our service area, and we spent, in this last quarter, we spent about $44,000 subsidy, which is about 28% of the total operating cost for operating those van pools, that 37 van pools. Our goal is not to exceed 50%, so we're well below that threshold, so we're pretty on financial side, we're doing pretty good job on that. And as discussed earlier in this meeting, that we try to have at least 20 miles or more when it comes to one-way trip length for the van pools. On an average, our van pools have 27 miles one-way direction, so it's pretty good on that side. And everything else is very promising, number of trips increasing, and also the occupancy rate, so which is another key piece that we try to move as many people as we can using this kind of services. So this time around, we have 66% occupancy rate that we have started tracking this KPI recently, and which is about 5% more than the last year this same time around. So everything is great on this program, nothing but positivity and optimism. Some safety and reliability trends. So one of the two variables in KPIs that we track when it comes to operations and making sure that our fleets are in a healthy condition and we can deliver the service as planned. So one of the things is preventable accidents per 100K miles. Our goal is to have less than 2 per 100K miles. For both local and regional, we have met the expectation. But for the lift service, we have some incidents, and we took care of it. We have installed some cameras so that we can address if there is any incidents or preventative, so we can work with that operators so our training team, so they can work with that, and it's heartbreaking or like any of those issues. And so with that camera in place, and then with additional training, and then our goal is to offer them and help them, not to like, I got you. So, and we have seen the results. So for the last month, there was 0 incidents. So hopefully this number will go down. So that's the investment, and that's the KPI that we're saying, like our goal is to get 0 or pretty close to the 0, and helping our operators to do what they're supposed to do. And then road calls per 10K miles traveled, our goal is to have less than 1. We have met that expectation as well, thanks to the teams, transportation and operations team in general. They're doing a phenomenal job on that and keeping us clean and safe for us and also for the riders who ride the system. I would like to conclude the presentation with some connotation, what's coming up next. So a few things, as you know, that you may have seen some additional improvements in those reportings, and my team has started how we can make it even better. So we're working internally to improve our annual performance report, maybe adding potentially new KPIs to provide a good comprehensive overview of our system, which includes, just an FYI, like the BEB. So we started the operations. So in the next report, I will probably be able to provide something, just an example. So in every time I come here, you will see something new. So that's the work in progress. Our goal is to make this report way better and comprehensive in this fiscal year 25. And also the complete solicitation for comprehensive operations analysis. You may be tired of hearing this, so we're pretty close. Hopefully by the next board meeting, we'll have a consultant selected. So we're super excited. A lot of those things will be answered from this very important study for us. And a shared micromobility study, and actually by now it is already complete. Solicitation is complete. So we have selected tool design, and they are very experienced in this domain. And the budget was $80,000 and $491 below the board threshold. That's why it's not here. And that contract we used the RFP process to select that. So and we have about 22.5% of DBE in that, so which is pretty good. So a lot of local and participation in that. And the completion of CAD-AVL hardware installation, that is, I believe by now it is done already. Installation of hardware and equipment in all vehicles, that is complete. And as Jeremy mentioned, that we have the tool Swiftly that's providing us a lot of insights, how we can improve our schedule adherence, how we can improve those connectivity with different routes. And it's providing specific recommendations. So our team has addressed those and took those recommendations for a few routes and worked through the process and implementing it. So that's the ROI of bringing a solution on board and actually using it and implementing it and see the outcome for our customers. I would conclude there. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer.
All righty. Any questions? Director Holmstrom?
Thank you for the good presentation. For the on-time performance, is that measured from all the time points?
Yes, it's on the time points, but we have the ability to go every stops. But for this report, it is on the time points only.
Okay, thank you.
Director Davidson?
Thank you, President Host Pressey. So you may have answered this just momentarily, but so with CAD-AVL now installed, at least the hardware, is the software up and running? Like, is Swiftly, is it still in beta or is it out of beta?
Okay. Yeah. So no, Swiftly is out of beta. So we started the Swiftly beta testing back in July, and then it's available. Real-time prediction is available, and in Transit app and UMO app. If you want to make the trip planning, you can do that. Swiftly is getting the information, static GTFS feed, and also from our Avail, but Swiftly has a GPS and other technology that they compare with the static where the bus should be and where the bus actually is. So they have other technology, they can generate those without any assistance. So this is going to be helpful for us once we go through the QA/QC process for the CAD-AVL system, and then they will also generate this so that we can compare apple to apple. So that's another validation piece that we can use. And so far we have seen pretty similar outcomes, so we're pretty optimistic about the Avail that this time around this will be really accurate. But we have this as a backup. So, and this is a one-year pilot beginning from last April. So by April of 2025, hopefully CAD-AVL's Avail fleet will be fully tested, validated, and that's the hope at least. But it is available. Real-time prediction is available on in the Transit app and UMO app.
Okay, so if I hear issues from members of the public, I should no longer say that it's in public beta. It is live?
It is live, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and once we complete the avail validation process, so the information is same. It's just who is providing it, where it's coming from. So the real-time prediction will be available no matter what. So, and then everything information, all those coming from and will be coming from avail. That's our core fundamental single source of truth moving forward. And once avail completes all this process and validation, and we're going to update our web page as well. So, and web page is basically getting this information from Google. So, and avail will submit, or IT will submit this avail feed to Google. I believe they already did. And Google takes 4 to 6 weeks, and with the holidays in mind, so it'll take whole month of January. And then once Google publish it, then it will be available in Google, and then people can also peek on our web page if they would like.
Great, thank you. And then my last question is, I noticed that for the preventative maintenance, 2 of our contracted services, Regional and Lyft, they missed their scheduled preventative maintenance. It was just 1 vehicle, it looks like, a piece. I'm not asking for an explanation. I'm just going to hop on a soapbox and note that if we had a unified operations campus, my supposition is that would not have happened, or the likelihood of it would not have happened. And so I just want to put that plug in there, that there are benefits that are perhaps not so obviously connected that we would see in reports like this so something to think about in the long term for us board members. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Director Lara Midkiff.
Thank you. I'm on my transit app now. I downloaded it, by the way. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, the fact that you knew how to do that. No, I'm just
Okay,
kidding.
that's enough. That's enough.
It's come a long way. It's come a long way.
It's come a long way. I have heard from people that it wasn't working. So my question is, when did it go live so that I can, anyway, yeah, when did it go live?
Yeah, so let me break it down for you. So yeah, it went live, I believe, late October, and then, and you know that we started the hardware installation, avail hardware installation on our vehicles, so there's a transition. So at time, there's all of those are GMV hardware on that, and when we went live, every information were coming from GMV. So there is a transition of hardware installation. So in that period, there is a period of few weeks, or maybe a few days, I would say a week, there was out, and I realized that as well, and then I worked with our IT team. All they did, basically, they updated the API, and we sent it over to Transit App, and the same day, they updated the app, because it's where the truth coming from. So there is a period of like 1 week or so, and when GMB was out, like they were not on our buses. So we had to address that, we did, and so if you go there now, it should be live.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Actually, I have another question. Do you want me to ask the avail question to you now, or do you want to wait?
Whatever you want.
Well, you asked me at a particular time. on the agenda. Okay. I have a question for General Manager Pollock, or whomever. My question was around any feedback. Who are you pointing to?
Chief Dietz.
Oh, hi. My question was around any feedback you'd gotten around the Spanish language services. I've heard them, so go ahead.
Thank you for that question. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts. We've gotten feedback from our native Spanish-speaking operators and dispatchers, and generally speaking, it's much better than the robo-voice or the other multiple voices that we had on the previous system. So that's anecdotally what I've heard.
Yes, thank you. I spent much of October and November traveling, and so I hadn't ridden the bus in a long time. I came back and it was less assaultive on my ears, and I really appreciated that. I will say, though much improvement though it is still not as good as the English version is good, if that makes sense. And so I'm not saying it has to be changed necessarily. I'm just saying when we're thinking about welcoming people on board and providing services to a multilingual community, I would aspire to have both those language experiences be comparable. And so though it is a significant improvement, they're not at parity with one another yet. But so take that for what you will.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so that'll bring us to our quarter one financial report.
Chief LaRuda, please come forward and present the report.
Good evening, President Hinojos Pressey and members of the board. I am here tonight to present the financial report for the first quarter of fiscal year 25. The memo and the detailed financials for first quarter begin on page 465. Wow, that's a really big number.
It's mainly those grant applications.
Yes. So looking at the financial overview, it's first quarter is always a big time for us preparing for our year-end audits. And so the report of independent auditors, deficiencies in internal control, the fraud and noncompliance with laws and regulations, that preparation all began in quarter one, and then of course continues on. Our FTA comprehensive review, which we have every 3 years, we're coming up on that. So we're anticipating the review date. It will be in the second half of FY25. So sometime in the next 6 months, but it takes a long process. So we'll be working with that. The NTD agreed upon procedures happens annually. The report was, the preparation for the report started in quarter one. And then the filing and audit happened then in quarter two. And then we did have our ODOT monitoring review, which happens annually, and that was completed first quarter with no findings. And as you heard earlier tonight, we did receive in first quarter the GFOA Excellence in Financial Reporting Award, which was our 12th consecutive. And then on the second page of our financial overview, our financial indicators report that the general fund revenues are at 13%. Again, for all of these numbers, we always look at them. For first quarter, they should be at 25% of our annual budget, roughly. Our expenses are at 22%, so that's less than a 25, which is great. As far as the revenues go, first quarter revenues are always a bit odd. There's always a lag time to get us started in the fiscal year. For the Transportation Programs Fund, revenues are at 8%, again, all the same reasons, and at 18% for expenses, once again, less than our 25%. And for Capital Fund financial performance, we are at 1% for revenue and 1% for expenses. And many of the projects, they begin at the beginning of the fiscal year, so it does take some time to develop the projects and the solicitation process. That all happens, a lot of that happens in the first quarter. So we're not incurring any expenses or gaining revenue from that yet in first quarter. So regarding the strategic plan and the budget usage for the organizational tactics, for sharing the Cherriots story, we did contract with the public relations consultant. That contract was executed in first quarter, but there were no costs incurred. The Cherriots Intelligent Transportation System implementation was an expenditure of about $474,000, and that was essentially the big expenditure for our capital project in first quarter. Our comprehensive operational analysis solicitation began, developing the solicitation began in first quarter. We did have a minor amount of money spent on the Del Webb Gate Fence project for $3,000 for project management fees in first quarter. We did start to develop a solicitation for a mentor-mentee plan. We also worked on the implementation and reward and recognition program, and that is in process, but we haven't incurred any costs. And development of the long-range financial plan, working with our vendor, that is in process, and again, no expenses for that in first quarter. May I answer any questions?
Thank you very much. Did you say that we contracted a PR firm for telling the Cherriots story?
Yes, well, the tactic is share the Cherriots story.
Okay, so we hired the PR firm for our internal strategic initiatives tactics?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? No? All right, looks like you're off the hook.
Great.
Thank you very much. All right, well, that will bring us to our general manager's report.
Great, thank you. So I do have a couple of guest presenters to start off my report. First, I'll ask our Deputy General Manager Trimble to provide an update on the South Salem Transit Center project.
So thank you, General Manager Pollock, President Enohos Pressey. So I want to give a quick update on our South Salem Transit Center project. So starting off with some good news, we have actually received our categorical exclusion letter from the FTA, which means yeah, well, that part right there. So very, very happy about that. So that does mean that we have attained our National Environmental Protection Act concurrence. Really simply put, that means through all of our evaluations, it is determined that our project does not significantly impact environments. So that's sort of the quick and dirty about what that means. We've satisfied the requirement. This NEPA process took 9 to 10 months, so it was a little painful, as I'm looking at Melissa behind me. So what this means is we can move forward now with the acquisition process. This isn't quite another tedious process, if you will. It always is when you're dealing with federal dollars. So what's going to happen now is some more survey work, additional work that was not completed due to the limited access that we had. We have been allowed access again through the property owner. We will engage our property acquisition specialist and our project manager and our legal team as we move forward with acquisition. There will be a need for an appraisal at some point down the road, an offer, fair market value, of course, and hopefully an offer of acceptance with the property owner, and ultimately that does need to be approved by the FTA. Once we get there, then we'll acquire the property, and that's sort of the oversimplification of what's going to go on here in the next few months. But it's actually a little bit more tedious than that. So, however, there have been lots of activities since we last reported on this project. Back in November, the entire project team did reconvene to do some value engineering on the project. And value engineering, for those that may not know, is a process by which we look at ways to reduce the overall cost involved in a project without any degradation of the function of the project, if you will. Initial estimates, as you all recall, are north of $21 million, so we are going to have to look at paring that down a little bit. That work was completed back in November, and it was a great success. Actually, we met in this room and had some really great conversations. Subsequently, members of the project team, which include Alan and myself, did meet with the property owner and her realtor on December 2nd. And the purpose of that is really to just nail down any specifics with regard to the property owner's plans and what the property owner's thoughts were, of which she did share. She was quite adamant about her desires for the parcel and the section of the parcel she wanted to retain. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I mean later, not today. So this is going to require a little bit of reimagining on our part, and we will certainly bring that to this board a little bit later. So the good news is we're definitely progressing assiduously through this continued process, and this will continue our grant strategy and our funding strategy as we move forward with the project. So all good news, and we can take a little bit of a sigh of relief, but there's still more work to do. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for our Deputy General Manager? No? Yes, Director Holmstrom.
It's maybe for the general manager. Are we expecting to have another work session on this topic coming up sometime next year?
At least one, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Back to you.
Oh, okay, next up is Chief Ulazum will give a TSP update, and I think he might have a micromobility update, unless he already gave it all earlier.
Yeah, thank you, General Manager Pollock. So we have a project, Traffic Signal Priority, also known as TSP. And this is mainly for green light extensions along the Lancaster corridors. We have identified 22 intersections, and we have purchased all the equipments that we need. And then city's fiber communication was down. So city's fiber communication is an essential element for us to see what's going on in each individual intersections. It's been a while, so many months, but good thing is their city's fiber communication system is back online. So this month, so I'll start with that. And immediately we started working with our vendors, in this case Light. They have started working with City of Salem, and they did, and their IT staff. So the equipment that we have installed in those intersections is called Maestro, so which is back online. And we will be working with City of Salem staff and Light, our vendor, for future steps, including identification of 2 to 3 intersections for us to test the technology before we fully deploy this in the whole Lancaster corridors. We have, after the holidays, we will resume this conversation with our partners, project partners. So finally, project is moving, so hopefully in the first quarter of next year, we will see some real good progress. And this is the update on the TSP. And the shared micromobility, I have already provided an update. So it's the tool design. So we have selected via RFP process. And they're expected to start in January 2025 after the holidays. And this is going to be a 10-month long project. By the end, they're going to do a recommendation whether there is a case for shared micromobility in Salem and Kaiser area. So I'll be happy to answer if there is any additional question.
Yes. Any questions? No? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I just have a couple of items to report. So just to let you know, last week I was reappointed to another term on the City of Salem's Downtown Advisory Board as part of their urban renewal process. And I'd like to inform you, we talked earlier tonight about the stiff formula applications, but if you recall earlier, we brought forward a set of projects for the stiff discretionary grant application process, and I can let you know that the ODOT's Public Transit Advisory Committee has reviewed all those applicants, and they have recommended 20 projects for approval that will go before the Oregon Transportation Commission in the spring. And I'm happy to say our 2 applications have been recommended for approval. To refresh your memory, the first one is for $2.1 million for paratransit vehicle replacement. And the other is just over $400,000 to help fund the East Salem Transit Center preliminary design and NEPA process. Still got a little ways to go, but we're in the project list. And then today, we kicked off the voting process in our gingerbread house competition, sponsored by our DEI Drive Committee. And we had 19 entrants that are up for the award, and they were just awesome. The creativity we have in people in this organization is great. They're all on display at Del Webb in the hallway. It smells like sugar over there, but it's just fantastic. Really happy to see the enthusiasm, and employees from all throughout the district. Some teamed up as groups and submitted some great ones. So I'm anxious to see if the general manager's division entry wins any prizes. So.
No pressure to
Yeah.
the judges.
No, it's everyone has a chance to vote. Nobody knows whose entrance is whose. So.
Oh.
Okay, except for everybody, all employees, they get to vote. There's no, I wouldn't say judge. Everyone gets to vote. And so with that, I just wish everyone a happy holidays. We'll see you in January. And rest up because we got a lot of work to do in 2025.
Absolutely.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start over here with Director Holmstrom. Do you have anything to report?
Yeah, thank you, President Hinojosa. I don't have a lot to report. I was able to join the meeting of the Community Advisory Committee last week, and happy to see that we were able to appoint or reappoint some folks to that committee tonight as part of our consent agenda, as well as confirming their selections for their officers. So they are continuing to make progress. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Director Davidson?
Thank you, President. So got a few updates from the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, or the COG. So on Tuesday, we met as a board. Among the items that we as a board considered was the adoption of a new, I'm blinking. We elected new officers. That is the term that I'm looking for. So starting in 2025, I will no longer be chair of the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. I will instead step into the role of immediate past chair, which means I get to attend just as many meetings, but I don't get to open any meetings. So just as good for me. That being said, my last act as chair will be the annual dinner of the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, which will occur, go ahead and mark your calendars, March 5th here in Salem, Oregon at the Willamette Heritage Center. There will be a nominal fee to attend, but this includes dinner, and there will be several awards, which is a good reminder and plug to nominate. I guess you could nominate yourself. Typically, people don't, but you nominate others to receive awards. There are award categories for professional public servants, for volunteer public servants, for collaboration of governments, and I think that's it. Anyways, those nomination forms will shortly be posted on the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments website, and typically it's a pretty good turnout. So looking forward to that annual dinner. On Tuesday, we did not, however, tackle one agenda item, which was slated to be addressed, which was the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments legislative agenda. Earlier that morning at 7 a.m., the legislative committee did meet, and we were not able to reach a consensus on several items on the legislative agenda, which had previously been adopted by the full board. In particular, those two items that drew some lack of consensus were around issues of property tax reform and the question of connecting Portland and Salem metropolitan regions by means other than highways. So for example, potentially regional buses or regional rail. And so in particular, the three counties were opposed most strongly to the inclusion of the articulation of the problem that there is a property tax issue that is hampering many local governments within the state of Oregon as caused by measures 5 and 50. And so we are back to the drawing board in January. I will be leading those efforts at the legislative committee for the COG. Perhaps in January or in February, we will have a new slate of legislative recommendations for the full board to consider. To oversimplify things, one of the considerations that certainly the legislative committee and the board will consider is what we as a council of governments want to how we want to represent ourselves at the council of government or at the legislature. Do we want to represent ourselves as a run-of-the-mill consultancy that has certain interests as a normal business, that we serve certain clients? We provide, for example, transportation planning services. We help individuals or governments with developing housing in different jurisdictions across a specified geographic area? Or do we want to speak with a unified voice for 40-plus governments and a geographic area larger than a state in this union? But those are questions that will be decided in January. So if you have thoughts, I would welcome your thoughts, as I am currently your representative on the board. In particular, I would welcome your thoughts on the property tax reform question and whether or not that is a bright red line for you all. And I can infer how you all feel about connecting Portland and Salem by means other than highways, but I would also love your opinions on that. So I don't know if this is the time for that, but you're also welcome to contact me individually.
I think I'm going to say, for the sake of time, please
Okay.
contact Director Davidson individually.
So, speaking of regional rail, I'm realizing that I never followed back with you all. So, several months ago, in my role as chair of the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, I convened a regional rail advisory committee, and we just met once. However, that one meeting ultimately proved very fruitful because the Portland Metro, the regional government up there, they ultimately were awarded $500,000 by the legislature, and in partnership with us, they have agreed to expand the scope of their study to include connecting the Mid-Valley to the Portland region. And so, which is really wonderful because that was ultimately the goal of convening that body initially. So, so one less meeting, and the ball is moving down the field. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Director Davidson. Director Duncan?
Thank you, President Enos Pressey. So I just have a couple things. I'll give the update first on the DEI committee. We really covered three main things at the last meeting. We have started a conversation about the Citizen Advisory Committee's bylaws. And the DEI committee took this up originally to kind of do a little audit and find out do the bylaws and who we are recruiting onto the Citizen Advisory Committee reflect the constituency in which we represent. And we kind of ultimately decided that we wanted to get input from the staff committee on that and kind of give them, this project is not only because we value their input, but also it's one of the first things they get to work on. So we're still kind of waiting for the updates on that. So we'll kind of follow up after we've gotten those pieces because we've got a lot of different things percolating there. Oh, that's a fun word. I should use it more often. Bus Wraps Initiative update also. We talked about the call for art and how we've kind of struggled to get in touch with the schools in the same ways that we did pre-pandemic. This is universal. It's an experience that multiple agencies that I work with in my private life have also run into. Just contacts aren't there, things like that. So we've kind of pivoted our approach, and so please share those social media posts. I have seen them go out with anybody that you know. We are particularly targeting youth, and we would love to see some submissions. We'd love to include youth art on the buses. Tri-Transit, we kind of talked a little bit about our Tri-Transit initiative over the summer, what went well, what we can do better, because I fully intend to continue to use my time on the DEI committee to pressure other public officials to take the bus in the most lovingly peer-to-peer support way possible. And so we've talked a little bit about different ways that we can do that that are more thoughtful of people's time and schedule and narrowing the scope of that project so that it's a little less time on each of the board members and we can hopefully get more direct outcomes. We're going to bring that back to the January board work session so we can talk about aligning it with service enhancement outreach, since this is technically an outreach project. So more to come on that one. Next, my time on the MWACT committee, the biggest update, really, I will not bore you all with more talk about the STIF, is we did get a bit of update on the Center Street Bridge seismic retrofit. This project, as you guys know, has had delays, and more delays. The largest problem now being the funding gap. I don't remember how many times the original amount we've gotten to at this point. But it looks like our project schedule at this point, we're looking to close up that NEPA schedule, hopefully this December of 2025. So we're still years out from the completion of a seismic retrofit. So everyone stand really still until then. Glad you like that one. And then last but not least, President Hinojosa Pressy and I went to Cincinnati, Ohio for a specialized APTA conference, which is fabulous. Talked to a lot of very smart people, learned a lot of very wonderful things that I haven't even had a chance to discuss with the board yet. So I guess we'll come back to that one once we've had a little bit of time to talk about all the different things. But sufficient to say, there are really wonderful people out there making sure that transit is heard and funded, and they are all really great at coming together and sharing that knowledge so that we can all do better at making sure that transit is funded. There are people that have far more difficult situations than ours that have done insanely amazing things with their time and building relationships in their communities, with their business communities, with their legislators, to making sure that everyone understands and can conceptualize the value. And I'm really excited for where transit is going in the nation as a whole, and I'm excited to bring those thoughts back here. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Director Duncan. And I'll go over to Director Laura Midkiff.
I'll be the first tonight, Director Davidson, to take your bait and say that property tax reform would be high on my priority list for the legislative session. I don't have a lot. As I said earlier, I've been traveling internationally a lot recently, so I haven't even been in Oregon to do anything, which has been nice as well. But I'd like to thank Cherriots for their providing free rides to an event that our very own Kira Pressy helped organize in November. Transit Day of Remembrance was part of her capacity on the Human Rights Commission, and I think this is the second event in the last few months that Cherriots has provided free rides for folks in the community to have access to really events that serve the community, hosted by the city. And so I thank you for that, and I think it's a good example of the sort of partnerships we can have and should have more of. So congratulations, Kira, and thank you to Cherriots.
All right. Director Navarro.
Awesome. Thank you, President. I only have a few updates tonight. I am severely tired. In case you didn't know, I work at the legislature, and we had legislative days a couple weeks ago. And yeah, it's definitely going to be a active 2025. But yeah, so one update was we unveiled the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. It's a couple blocks away. In case you guys haven't had an opportunity to see that, it's a beautiful memorial. It's the phase 1, which is the solid state phase. Phase 2 is going to be a more interactive memorial that they're going to be implementing down there. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like, but it's supposed to tell a perspective of the Vietnam War that's not just from the U.S. side. So I'm really excited to see what that's going to look like. I got to attend the Kaiser Lights Parade with Director Duncan, General Manager Pollock, and a couple staff from Cherriots. I just wanted to give a shout out to the operator who did an amazing job that whole route, yelling the whole time. I mean, I was tired and I was just sitting in the back. But yeah, that was super cool. It was great to see folks excited about the flow and cheering, jumping up and down for Cherriots when it was freezing cold outside. I got to attend the Kaiser Fire Department's annual Christmas pancake breakfast, which gave me a newfound respect for restaurant workers. That is crazy. They were keeping me busy. I was volunteering serving pancakes. And yeah, that was really exciting, but it was great to see so many people get together and just kind of enjoy the holidays and support the Kaiser Fire Department. Let's see, we had so coming up next is, this next month, is Kaiser's First Citizens Banquet on January 18th, which is a couple days before I start back at the legislature. And with that, I'm going to get some sleep, and that's going to conclude my report.
Thank you very much. I do want to shout out your Christmas sweater. Happy holidays. I also saw that some of our staff in the lobby over there are wearing some very festive sweaters. And also shout out to General Manager Pollock's very festive tie as well. Yeah, well, I don't have anything to report, so I'm going to go ahead and have us close out. Oh, forgot Director Carney.
Almost was off the hook. All right. Thank you, President Hinojosa Pressy. Let's see, I will go in chronological order and start with our SCATS Policy Committee meeting on November 26th. We discussed the discretionary funding evaluation. Senator, just get in your bed for a minute. Sorry, my dog is ready to go in and out of this room 15 times in this meeting. Sorry.
I mean, I preemptively, I think, prepped your dog by saying that I was going to close the meeting. So.
Yeah, he was like, I'm out. We discussed the discretionary funding evaluation criteria. So that's this big pile of money that the SCATS Policy Committee directs to different transportation improvement projects around our MPO. So SCATS invited eligible project sponsors to apply for discretionary funding, so submit their application for the 2027-2032 MTIP, so the future, on October 9th. Those project applications will next go to the Technical Advisory Committee before being referred back to the Policy Committee. The last time the Policy Committee updated the evaluation criteria was in 2022, when we changed the definitions around what kind of qualified and how things qualified for a safety project. Let's see, the Policy Committee will review those project applications in December and January. And let's see, wait, no, I have that wrong. The staff update to evaluation criteria and weighting factors based on TAC and Policy Committee surveys will come back to us in December, January, and evaluation criteria will be brought to us in January. That doesn't give me or you a good sense on what this timeline ultimately looks like, but that's what was in the packet and what we worked with. Next, we talked about the fiscal year 25-26 Unified Planning Work Program, the outline of tasks and schedule for that project, which is, as it sounds, annual. So this month, we reviewed the outline of planned activities with the TAC and Policy Committee members. And let's see, I'll skip to the good stuff, which is, let's see, in April, the Policy Committee will be requested to approve the final Unified Planning Work Program, which, if memory serves, includes the cooperative agreement. So that should be interesting. Let's see, and then there were some updates to the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Plan and the State Transportation Improvement Plan, and we went over that amendment matrix. And our next Policy Committee meeting will be on January 28th, 2025. I rode in the Kaiser Lights Parade with all 4 of my children. So thank you for everyone who attended, for your grace and your patience. And thank you so much to that driver. He was indeed amazing. And he took a video of my son in front of the bus, which had the cool lightning bolt down the side. It was a really fantastic night. I enjoyed it. And next time I will only fill their water bottles about halfway before we get on the bus, because by the end of that bus trip, it was really, we had to make it clear to several of our younger passengers that there was no bathroom. And then finally, earlier this week, we convened the legislative subcommittee. Huge thank you to CFM for serving as our liaison in that space. Their familiarity with issues both federal and state and with the Oregon Legislative Assembly is really comforting to have in the room and in the conversation. We reviewed our federal and state legislative agendas and the different projects and issues on them. And we discussed and proposed maybe some slight modifications to the board priorities and principles, which I think, if I'm correct, General Manager Pollock, come to this group for final approval before we adopt them.
Correct.
So you should see that coming up shortly. And then finally, we reviewed the Oregon Legislative Assembly committee appointments that are sort of for our area and relative to the issues that we are interested in. And that concludes my report. Happy holidays. I'm so sad I'm not there, but I can feel this sore throat kind of like doing a thing right now. So I'm also glad for you all that I'm not there. But happy holidays, and I can't wait to work hard with you in the new year.
All righty, it is 7:57 PM. We are adjourned, and a quick happy birthday to Chief Operations Officer Tom Dietz.
So now people clap.